The bright lights of the audition room were almost blinding, casting a warm glow over the polished hardwood floor. Samantha Jones stood center stage, her heart racing as she took a deep breath. She was dressed in a simple black dress, her natural hair framing her face in soft curls. The casting director, Mark Peterson, sat at a long table, flanked by a couple of other industry veterans, their eyes focused intently on her. "Whenever you're ready," Mark said, his tone casual, but Samantha could sense the weight of scrutiny behind it. She nodded, grounding herself, and began her monologue, a powerful piece about a woman's resilience in the face of adversity. The words poured from her like a river, each line infused with the pain and strength of her character. As she reached the climax of her performance, she could see a flicker of interest in the eyes of one of the other casting agents. But then, she caught sight of Mark leaning in, whispering something to a colleague. Her heart sank as she noticed the way they exchanged glances, their expressions morphing into something that felt distinctly dismissive. The air in the room shifted, and a knot tightened in her stomach. "Thank you, Samantha," Mark said, cutting her off mid-performance. "We'll be in touch." The words felt like a slap in the face. She offered a polite smile, trying to mask the turmoil inside as she left the room. The following days were an agonizing blur. Each morning, she would wake up hopeful, checking her phone incessantly for any missed calls or emails. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on the third day, her worst fears were confirmed. Tasha, her best friend, burst into her apartment, her face a mix of excitement and concern. "Samantha, did you hear? They cast Emily Collins for the lead role." Tasha's voice was laced with disbelief. Samantha felt the world tilt beneath her. Emily, a talented actress but not nearly as suited for the role in Samantha's opinion, had snagged the part. No, it can't be," Samantha whispered, her voice trembling. "I nailed that audition. I felt it. This isn't fair." Tasha stepped closer, wrapping her arms around Samantha. "I know it hurts, but you gotta keep pushing. You're too talented to let this stop you. Remember how far you've come? But it's not just about talent, Tasha. It's about who they think I am because of my skin color," Samantha replied, her voice thick with emotion. "They'll never see me for what I can do. Then show them. Use this as fuel. Don't let their ignorance dim your light." Tasha encouraged, her eyes fierce with determination. Samantha nodded, though doubt still gnawed at her. Days later, the atmosphere was electric at the celebratory party for the film, with laughter and chatter filling the air. The film's cast and crew mingled, drinks in hand, but Samantha felt like an outsider. She stood by the refreshments, watching as Emily basked in the attention, the very role Samantha had wanted, now the center of the evening's conversation. As she turned to leave, she heard Mark's voice cutting through the crowd. "Honestly, I never understood why they even brought her into audition. It's not like she has the look for a leading lady," he sneered, laughter following his words. Samantha's heart raced, anger boiling within her. She felt her fists clench at her sides. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had given everything to her craft, and yet, here was Mark, a gatekeeper of her dreams, belittling her talent. "I can't believe this," she muttered under her breath, but Tasha, who had been nearby, overheard and placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Let it go, Sam. Don't let him get to you," she said softly, but Samantha shook her head, fire igniting in her spirit. "No, I won't let this slide. He thinks he can decide who is worthy of success based solely on race? I'll prove him wrong." With resolve, Samantha turned on her heel, her determination hardening like steel. She would not be silenced or sidelined any longer. She would make the world see her for who she truly was, a talented actress with a story to tell, and no one could take that away from her. The journey ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope igniting within her. She was ready to fight for her dreams. Samantha stood just outside the audition room, her heart pounding as she adjusted the hem of her vintage dress. The independent film, titled Fleeting Moments, promised a raw, emotional narrative about the struggles of a young artist in a city that often felt like it was against her. As she waited, she could hear the muffled voices of the casting team inside, their laughter and chatter punctuated by the occasional cough or shuffle of papers. "Next," called out a voice, jolting her from her thoughts. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through the door and into the bright lights that illuminated the small space. David Chun, the director, sat behind the table, his eyes keen and focused. He was known for his ability to extract genuine performances from his actors, and the rumors of his commitment to inclusivity in casting had reached Samantha's ears long before she'd arrived. "Hi, I'm Samantha Jones," she introduced herself, feeling a slight tremor in her voice. "Nice to meet you, Samantha," David replied warmly, gesturing for her to begin. As she performed, she poured every ounce of her being into the character, channeling her recent heartbreak and disappointment into each line. She could see David's expression shift. He leaned forward, captivated. When she finished, the room fell silent for a moment, and Samantha's heart raced in anticipation. "That was incredible," David said, breaking the stillness. "You brought such depth to the character. I want to work with you." Samantha's eyes widened in disbelief. "Really? You mean I got the role?" "Yes, absolutely. I see great potential in you," he affirmed, a smile spreading across his face. "Let's get started right away." As filming began, Samantha found herself surrounded by a supportive cast who recognized her talent without the shadows of bias looming over them. One of her co-stars, a seasoned actress named Maya, became a mentor of sorts. They often chatted between takes, sharing stories about their journeys in an industry that could be both thrilling and unforgiving. "You know, I can relate to what you're going through," Maya said one afternoon as they sat on the set, sipping coffee from paper cups. "I faced my share of rejections because of the color of my skin. But look at us now. We're here, and we're making art." Samantha nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "It's funny. I thought I'd never get another chance after that last audition. It's like a weight has been lifted." "Good. Use that feeling," Maya encouraged. "Let it fuel your performance. It's about time we show them what we're made of." However, not everything was smooth sailing. As the weeks rolled on, Samantha faced challenges from a few crew members who were less enthusiastic about her presence on set. Whispers filled the air, and subtle glances were exchanged that hinted at the biases she had hoped to escape. One afternoon, during a particularly intense scene, a crew member muttered, "She's not cut out for this. Just another pretty face." Samantha felt the heat rise to her cheeks, but she refused to let it deter her. She took a deep breath, focused on her character's pain, and delivered the scene with an intensity that silenced her detractors. Later, during a break, David approached her, his expression serious. "Don't let them get to you," he said gently. "You have a gift, and that's what matters. Keep pushing forward." With each day of filming, Samantha grew more confident. She harnessed the support of her co-stars and the belief of David, channeling her experiences into her craft. Every time she stepped in front of the camera, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Finally, after months of hard work, the film was ready for its premiere. The excitement buzzed in the air as she dressed for the event, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and fear. Would the audience see the depth she had worked so hard to create? Would they acknowledge her talent? Or would it be overshadowed by the industry's biases once again? As she walked the red carpet, flashes from cameras greeted her like a storm, and she felt the weight of all her previous rejections slip away, if only for a moment. The film screening was held in a packed theater, and as the credits rolled, the audience erupted in applause. Samantha's heart swelled with hope as she caught David's eye from across the room. He nodded approvingly, and she could see the pride radiating from him. This was more than just a film. It was a testament to resilience and the power of believing in oneself despite the odds. The reviews began to pour in shortly after, each one more encouraging than the last. "A breakout performance," one critic wrote. "Samantha Jones delivers an emotional tour de force." As she read the words, tears welled in her eyes. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. As the grand chandelier cast shimmering lights across the lavish ballroom, Samantha Jones stood backstage, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. She adjusted her gown, feeling the weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders. This was it, her first nomination for Best Actress. The thought brought a swell of pride, but alongside it came the bitter memories of being passed over for the leading role that had felt so right for her. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her journey, the struggles, the rejections, and the eventual triumphs. "Sam, you ready?" Tasha's voice broke through her thoughts, a soothing balm against the swirling nerves. Samantha turned to see her best friend, a beacon of support, wearing a bright smile that radiated warmth. "I think so," Samantha replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just can't shake this feeling. What if they don't see me?" Tasha stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Samantha's shoulder. "You've worked so hard for this. Remember that you're not just representing yourself. You're representing all the women of color who've been overlooked. Go out there and show them what you've got." With a determined nod, Samantha squared her shoulders and made her way to the front of the stage. The applause filled the room, a cacophony of cheers that both thrilled and terrified her. As she stepped up to the microphone, her eyes scanned the audience, catching glimpses of familiar faces, her co-stars, friends, and mentors, all there to support her. But she also felt the weight of unseen eyes, including those of Mark Peterson, the casting director who had once dismissed her. "Wow," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor of emotion beneath. "I stand here tonight not just as an actress nominated for an award, but as a symbol of resilience in an industry that has too often overlooked talent because of race." The audience listened intently, and for a moment, Samantha felt a connection to each person in the room. She continued, "This nomination is not just for me, but for every aspiring artist who has been told they aren't enough. We are enough. We deserve to be seen and heard." As she spoke, memories flooded her mind. Her audition where doubt had lingered, the sting of rejection, and the unwavering support of Tasha and David Chun, who had seen her potential when others had not. She could feel the power of her words resonating, lifting her spirit. The night wore on, and the anticipation grew heavy in the air. Finally, the time arrived. The presenter, a well-known actor, opened the envelope with a flourish. And the award for Best Actress goes to Samantha Jones for The Unseen. A moment of disbelief washed over her. Did they just say her name? The applause erupted, and as she walked to the stage, the world blurred around her. In that moment, she was no longer just Samantha Jones. She was a force of change, a beacon for those who dared to dream. Upon reaching the microphone, she took a moment to collect herself, tears of joy glistening in her eyes. "Thank you. Thank you so much. This is surreal," she breathed, her voice trembling with emotion. To be recognized in this way is a dream come true. She paused, looking out into the audience, her heart full. But I want to remind everyone that this is just the beginning. Representation matters, and we must continue to fight for the stories that are still waiting to be told. The audience erupted in applause, but amidst the joy, Samantha felt a flicker of awareness. The studio that had once cast her aside was watching, and she couldn't help but wonder how they would react to this moment. Would they acknowledge her talent now that it was on display for all to see? As she stepped down from the stage, clutching the award close to her heart, she understood that her journey was far from over. With every step, she would continue to advocate for change, for inclusivity, and for those who had been silenced. She was ready to take on the world, not just for herself, but for every voice that needed to be heard. Samantha stood on the balcony of her apartment, the city sprawling beneath her like a canvas of bright lights and whispered dreams. The award she had just won rested on her mantle, a heavy reminder of both her triumph and the struggles that brought her here. The night air was tinged with the scent of possibility, but also with the residue of the past, a past that had sought to silence her. Her phone buzzed insistently, breaking her reverie. It was her agent, Lisa, calling with news that made Samantha's heart race. "Samantha, the studio wants to meet with you. They're looking to discuss new projects, and they're excited about your recent win." Samantha's brow furrowed. The studio that had once dismissed her, that had chosen Emily over her, now sought her out? "What exactly do they want?" she asked, her voice steady but laced with skepticism. "They claim they want to make amends, highlight more diverse stories. They've changed their tune, Samantha," Lisa replied, a hint of excitement in her tone. "This could be a huge opportunity. Or just a PR stunt, Samantha muttered, her mind racing back to the casting director's dismissive whispers. I don't want to be part of a token gesture. What if they're just trying to save face? Look, I understand your hesitation, Lisa said, her tone more serious. But you have to think about your career. This could open doors. Samantha sighed, weighing her options. I need to think about it, Lisa. The next day, she found herself sitting in a sleek conference room at the studio, the air thick with tension and unspoken words. Mark Peterson, the casting director who had once belittled her talent, was seated at the head of the table, his demeanor markedly different. He wore a rehearsed smile, but Samantha could sense the underlying discomfort. Thank you for coming, Samantha, he began, his voice smooth but lacking sincerity. We want to discuss how we can work together going forward. Your recent performance has elevated your profile, and we believe it's time to focus on more diverse narratives. Samantha met his gaze, unflinching. I appreciate the offer, Mark, but I need to address the elephant in the room. I was overlooked for a role I was more than qualified for, simply because of my race. Why should I trust that this time will be different? Mark shifted in his seat, a flicker of defensiveness crossing his face. That was a mistake, and we've recognized it. We're committed to improving our practices and giving opportunities to deserving talent. Is that commitment genuine or just a response to my recent success? She pressed, her voice steady. It's genuine, Samantha, he insisted, though she detected a hint of desperation. We want to create a partnership. We can make a real impact together. Samantha's heart raced, torn between the allure of a lucrative deal and the haunting memories of her prior rejection. I need to think about it, she finally said, her voice cool and deliberate. I won't be part of a project that doesn't align with my values. As she left the studio, the weight of the decision lingered on her shoulders. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being pulled back into a system that had once marginalized her. Meanwhile, Emily Collins sat in her plush dressing room, staring at the mirror with a mix of confusion and dread. The reviews for her film were rolling in, and they were far from kind. She had taken on the role with enthusiasm, but the pressure of being the chosen one over Samantha had been suffocating. Emily, are you okay? Asked her co-star Jake, popping his head through the door. You've been awfully quiet. Not really, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The critics are tearing me apart. They keep mentioning Samantha, saying I don't measure up. Jake frowned. You can't let that get to you. You did your best. But it's not enough, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I know I was chosen because I fit a certain image. It feels wrong, Jake. He stepped into the room, concern etched on his face. You're talented, Emily. Don't let their words define you. And don't let your success be tainted by someone else's struggle. Emily nodded, but doubt lingered. She felt the weight of the expectations crashing down on her, and a twinge of guilt gnawed at her conscience. As the reality of her situation sank in, she knew she had to confront her fears and the role she played in the industry's biases. Back in her apartment, Samantha stared out into the night again. She had made her choice. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was determined to carve her own way. She would not let the past dictate her future. As she picked up her phone to call Lisa, she felt a sense of clarity wash over her. Samantha was ready to embrace her truth, and this time, it would be on her terms. Samantha sat at her modest kitchen table, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow over her laptop screen. After months of auditions and small roles, she was finally receiving offers from independent studios that recognized her talent for what it truly was, a gift. Each email and call that came in felt like a sweet validation of her journey, a reminder that her hard work and resilience were paying off. Hey, Sam, you look like you just won the lottery, Tasha exclaimed, bursting through the door with a takeout bag in hand. She dropped it onto the table, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Close enough, Samantha laughed, her heart racing with joy. I just got an offer from Greenlight Films. They want me for the lead in a drama about women overcoming societal challenges. Wow, that's amazing, Tasha squealed, clapping her hands together. You've worked so hard for this, Sam. I'm so proud of you. Samantha felt the warmth of her friend's words wash over her. It's not just about this role, though. It feels like they see me, my artistry, not just my skin color. She paused, reflecting on the struggles she had faced. I want to make sure I give back, you know? I want to help others who are where I once was. Absolutely. You have to start mentoring those young actresses. You know they look up to you. Tasha encouraged, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. And so, with a newfound determination, Samantha embarked on an initiative to mentor young women of color in the industry. She set up workshops, inviting aspiring actresses to meet and discuss their dreams, fears, and the hurdles they faced. The first session took place in a community center, filled with vibrant artwork and a palpable sense of hope. As she stood in front of a group of eager faces, she felt a rush of purpose. You all are here because you believe in your dreams, and that's the first step, Samantha began, her voice steady and warm. I want to share my journey with you, not just the triumphs, but also the disappointments. It's important to know that rejection doesn't define your worth. One young actress, a shy girl named Mia, raised her hand hesitantly. But what if I keep getting rejected? What if I'm not good enough? Samantha smiled gently, recalling her own past struggles. I've been there, Mia. I faced rejection because of something as superficial as my race. But I learned that every no brings you closer to your yes. You have to keep pushing, keep believing in yourself. Mia nodded, her eyes wide with admiration. Thank you, Samantha. That really helps. As the weeks turned into months, Samantha's mentorship program flourished. She watched as the young actresses grew in confidence, their unique voices becoming stronger. They were not just students. They were a community, a family bonded by shared experiences and aspirations. Meanwhile, Samantha's own career continued to skyrocket. She starred in multiple independent films, each more successful than the last, showcasing her authenticity and depth. The industry began to take notice, and she was heralded as a rising star, a beacon of hope for many who had faced racial bias. However, as Samantha's star shone brighter, the studio that had once overlooked her felt the tremors of her success. They watched as independent films featuring her garnered critical acclaim and box office success. They realized they had made a grave mistake in dismissing her talent, and their attempts to cultivate diversity felt increasingly hollow without her involvement. One day, as Samantha was wrapping up a meeting with her team, she received a call from the studio's head, eager to discuss a potential blockbuster film. Samantha, we'd like to extend a generous offer for you to star in our upcoming project. We believe this could be a huge success, he said, his voice smooth yet laden with desperation. Samantha's heart sank. She could sense the insincerity in his tone. Thank you for the offer, but I have to decline. I've moved on to projects that align with my values and vision, she replied firmly, her resolve unwavering. Please reconsider, he pressed, almost pleading. We're committed to diversity now. We want to make amends. I appreciate that, but I need to follow my path, she said, feeling a surge of empowerment. I'm focused on creating work that matters, not just filling a quota. As she hung up, Samantha felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She had turned her pain into purpose, and she was proud to stand firm in her decision. She had found her voice, and it was stronger than ever. The phone rang sharply, breaking the quiet of Samantha's sun-drenched apartment. She glanced at the screen, recognizing the name of a journalist, Claire Roberts, who had been investigating the entertainment industry's darker undercurrents. With a mix of curiosity and apprehension, she answered. Hello, Claire, Samantha said, her voice steady but laced with anticipation. Hey, Samantha, I have some important information, and I think you need to hear it, Claire replied, her tone urgent. I've uncovered some documents that reveal the studio's attempts to cover up their discriminatory practices. It's all connected to your past rejection and the casting choices they've made. Samantha's heart raced. What do you mean? Are they really trying to hide this? Yes, and I have the evidence to back it up. I believe it's going to stir up quite a bit of public outrage, Claire explained. I'd like to get your perspective on this. Would you be willing to speak out? Taking a moment to collect her thoughts, Samantha nodded, even though Claire couldn't see her. Absolutely. I want people to know the truth. We can't let them sweep this under the rug. As Claire continued to outline her findings, Samantha felt a surge of empowerment. This was her chance to not only reclaim her narrative, but also to stand up for countless others who had faced similar discrimination in silence. Within days, the story broke, sending shockwaves through the industry. Social media erupted with hashtags calling for accountability, and the public's outrage was palpable. Meanwhile, the studio scrambled to control the damage. The once gleaming facade was cracking, and their attempts to downplay the situation proved futile. As the dust settled, Mark Peterson, the casting director who had been at the epicenter of Samantha's original rejection, was forced to resign. His departure was swift and public, a clear acknowledgement of the growing backlash against the studio's practices. In the midst of the chaos, the studio released a statement. "We sincerely apologize to Samantha Jones and all marginalized actors for our past misjudgments. We are committed to fostering an inclusive environment moving forward." Samantha read the statement with a mix of satisfaction and skepticism. Their words felt hollow, but she knew this was just the beginning. Days later, she received an invitation to speak at a significant industry event. The organizers wanted her to share her story and discuss the need for change. As she prepared her speech, Samantha felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This was her opportunity to be a voice for those who had been silenced. On the day of the event, she stood backstage, her heart pounding with anticipation. The auditorium buzzed with energy, filled with industry professionals and advocates for change. When her name was announced, Samantha stepped into the spotlight, her palms slightly sweating, but her resolve unwavering. "Thank you for having me," she began, her voice steady. "I stand before you not just as an actress, but as a woman who has faced the harsh realities of discrimination in this industry. My journey has not been easy, but it has taught me the importance of resilience and the power of speaking out." As she shared her story, detailing the pain of rejection and the subsequent triumphs, she could see the audience leaning in, engaged and moved. "We need to create spaces where all voices are heard and valued. This is not just about me. This is about every artist who has been overlooked, undervalued, or dismissed because of their race." Samantha's words resonated deeply, sending ripples of awareness through the audience. She concluded her speech with a call to action. "Let's work together to dismantle the barriers that have held us back for so long. Change starts with us, and it is time to create a Hollywood that reflects the diversity of our world." As she stepped off the stage, a wave of applause washed over her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of belonging. Looking out at the diverse audience, she realized that her fight had just begun, but she was no longer alone. The movement for change was gaining momentum, and she was proud to be a part of it. In that moment, Samantha understood the true power of her journey, not just for herself, but for everyone who dared to dream and fight for their place in a world that had too often tried to silence them.